Why I'm combine architecture and human rights? For us at EHR, at Emergency Architecture and Human Rights, is a statement. Architecture is a human right. But we want to open this and try to make us question, is architecture a human right? Of course, there are different answers to this. Somebody will say no, somebody will say yes, and people, even the people that will say yes, will answer in different way. So for us at EHR, architecture is a human right because architecture is an accumulate knowledge. And all accumulate knowledge has to have the possibility to be used by everybody as much they want, when they want, and where they want. So it's very clear. For us, it's the base of all our work that architecture is a tool to promote human rights. Of course, in the practice, this didn't happen with us. Like, we are not the first one to do an architectural project that has a social utility. And I want to just going through some photos that are showing some economical, political architecture example of architecture as a tool of change society. I want to start with this one. 200 years ago, the Industrial Revolution, a neighborhood of Manchester, where you can see the stricter relation between the industry, factory, the right to work, to the right to housing, to right to housing for the labor class. This is an image of the 1870s, long time ago. This is a huge, massive social housing. This is just in front of our office in Copenhagen. But the interesting thing of this, that is the example of the welfare state of the northern country. Normally, this massive social housing, as we saw in the previous presentation, were built after the Second World War to shelter a lot of people. This is a building of the 1923. And of course, the destruction of the city, the urbicide, the homicide of the urbs, the homicide of the city, the destruction of the city, but most over also the reconstruction, the how to make this city live again. For us, it's very important, was extremely important, the result of the Second World War as European and in general, like in all over the world, because get born to an important document that is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that it was released on the 10th of December of 1948. There is a strict relation between the Universal Human Rights Declaration and architecture. One of the articles is the Article 25, 25th, that is say everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health, well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, and housing. Here we are. This is a photo of Riga. Again, massive social housing. He has to, in Europe after the Second World War, after any war, there is a need of shelter a lot of people after the destruction. Between the 50 and the 70, we had the need to store a lot of people. So to build 40 million apartments in 20 years. 36 million under the Soviet Union, East Europe, and 4 million in the Western Europe, basically mainly in Germany, France, and Italy. So shelter people in a cheap way and fast way. Many of these buildings are prefabricated. And of course, you know better than me. This is a piece of art of Torres Garcia that was extremely influenced in this period for Latin American intellectuals, because it was one of the first time where intellectuals from Latin America start to step away and think not anymore about colonialism, not anymore about Europe, not anymore about the northern country. And this has strongly repercuted also in the work of architects. I just want to show not show, but say two examples. Valparaíso, Ciudad Abierta. I will show example of Chile because I was living there for a bit. And all the work that Chilean architect did in the poor and small island of Chiloé. During the 80s, 90s, and 2000, there was the nice neoliberalism. Pushed by Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, architects start to change their mind. Someone say that we are the clown of the power. So architects start to move from working in the social sector, mainly public sector, to the private sector. And this is meaning that we can see clearly the condition of our city. Not just this, new graduates, students of architecture and architects in general, wanted to become archistar. And this means that the university created huge amount of frustrated architects because it's impossible that all of us became archistar. And architects that were moving more and more step away from the society. Of course, not all the architects follow this path. I would just want to show two that for us, are part of the resistance of architecture. One is an Italian architect. I'm Italian, so I want to show my people. And this Fabrizio Carola that was building during the 80s a lot of public building and a lot of cultural building in Mauritania. And the second one is a Latin American architect, Eduardo Rojas. Finally, national prize in Chile last year. This object and this architecture is a cultural resistance. This is a rural museum built in a rural area during the dictatorship of Pinochet. After the 2000s, something started to change. Something started to going back in similar way to the 70s, the 60s. Of course, thanks also to the architecture media, extremely important in our job. So one of the first moments was the Biennale of Fuchsias with title Less Aesthetic and More Ethic, but not just in architecture, also in art. This happened with the Manifesta in Kassel in 2017, entitled South as a State of Mind. Of course, also the Pritzker Prize to Alejandro Ravena, to Shegeruban, all these things. Now I want to show through our research and build project which one are for us the 11 urgent topics. The first one is the humanitarian emergency and resilience. This is a very important photo and period, things that happen in our career, in our office. This is the tsunami of 2004 in Indonesia that received a lot of attention by media. Please, now, during my presentation, you have to understand that attention of media is meaning a lot of money. During this tsunami, this emergency, we discovered that architects are a completely failed during the emergency. Indonesia received a lot of money because the tsunami likely happened in December. December, it's a holiday place, a lot of white people are there. A lot of people from the North America, a lot of people from Europe, a lot of people from Australia, Japan, South Korea, etc. A lot of people with money so that their country are interested in the white people over there. So a lot of money start to be received by Indonesia. And this is interesting that MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières, said, please don't send us any more money because they receive in 1 week what they normally receive in 3 months. Architects completely fail over there. They were also interested in have a piece of this cake, of this money. So they start to ship and produce a lot of emergency shelter. The majority of them didn't arrive because logistic problem. They were lived over there for 3 months because they were not adapted to the climate, or they were not used by the locals because they were culturally not accepted. If you put a toilet inside a house where people don't pee and poo inside the house is disgusting. It's the same for us to have a toilet in the middle of our kitchen. We normally use two tools in our work. The first one is the circle of tragedy or circle of emergency that you can see that is divided in two, divided in several parts, but mainly in two parts, the left side and right side. So the disaster happening, point zero, and after emergency, recover, reconstruction, and after we start with the rehabilitation, mitigation, prevention, and preparedness. The right side is where a lot of money there is. There is a lot of money over there. The left part, nobody cares. There is no attention on this. The media need to see people that die, people that are saved. In the mitigation process, you don't see this. But the left part saves much more life compared to the right part. And the second tool is the project matrix. This is how we work in the office. So we try to combine culture, climate and geography, and emergency. And this is some of the projects that we did and we try to put together. We include also in the emergency the social conflict. Finally, I go through the project. This is flooding in Mozambique. This is happening each February. Million people without shelter. Boom. But nobody cared about them. But in the 2000, a lot of money arrived to Mozambique because there was an helicopter passing from there, a nice photograph that shot a photo to a woman giving birth on a tree during the flooding. Poor baby, poor woman, a lot of money. So we arrived, there was money to build. So together with the UN Habitat and the other architects, we built this, what we call emergency school during the normal, when there is not a crisis. But there's something that is, so it's working also as emergency building during the flood. So it's elevated, they have red walls, so helicopter passing from there can recognize. And also there is a water tank that you cannot see in this photo that is used for can be used for 150 people in a period of 5 days when they go up there on the roof to be saved. The second one is the social equality and conflict mitigation. This is a workshop and a research project also we did with the community and the student from Copenhagen. And this is called Garbage City. It's in Cairo. So normally, what's happened is that garbage is going from inside the city to the outskirts of the city. In this case, it's happening exactly the opposite. From the city to the center. They are Christian Copto, they work with the garbage. They live with the garbage. And this is what's happening inside. Like the proposition also coming by the people, from the people, was that they need a kind of shadow because, of course, sun and garbage, they don't like each other, a lot of smell, so it's not very nice to work and live in this condition. So this was one of the propositions. The third one is water and food production. We are an agency, a no-profit agency, and this is meaning that we have work in the humanitarian context, so it means that we have to respect the humanitarian principle. So this is not about politics. This is the separation wall between Palestine and Israel. We are talking about architecture as a tool for social change and architecture as a human right. I don't need to say that architecture can be used also as a tool for war. And this is a project that we have in Palestine at the moment. And this, we are interested in one of the main problems, that is the water for Palestinian. This is per capita. So an Israeli is taking between 240 and 300 liters per day, per person. WHO, World Health Organization, the minimum standard for everybody is 100 liters. Palestinian takes 73. Not just this. The problem is that even in Palestinian territory, if I want to dig a well, I have to ask the permission of Israeli authority. And of course, you can imagine what is the answer normally. Because the underground of the Palestinian territory is property of Israel. The only thing that we can do is to restore destroyed well or try to improve the existing well. This is the only thing that we can do if we want to act in a legal way. The other topic is informal settlement, favelas, and slum. Of course, it's a topic that you know better than me. This is a workshop that we did in India, in Mumbai. This is Dharavi, one of the biggest and most dense place in the world. These are the living condition inside, and the main problem is that there is so little space for each person to live in a shelter. So what came out is to create place where people can rest during the day and during the night that are a bit elevated so that they also have like ventilation and can be used as a resting area from a participatory process during the workshop. And these are the place where the community want the place to be. Affordable housing, and this is a project that we did that was built in Copenhagen. We had a lot of problems in legislative way. This is a shelter for homeless, but we have to reduce our expectation and just do a shelter in winter, because when we wanted to build this, the Copenhagen authority arrived and say, you cannot build this because you have to follow all the rules of a normal house. And this was impossible because we didn't have money. So we just tried to skip the rules and say, this is not architecture, this is art, and this is a temporary exhibition called This Is Not a Home. After cultural process, this is Chiloé, an island built on wood, huge, amazing skills of people building wood. But the schools, with the commission for a school, they're normally not built in wood because all the drawings are coming from the central, from the Santiago, and it's all the same all the time. So to convince the Minister of Education, we decide to tell them we will build 4,500 square meters with the money of 2,500 meters. So we build 2,000 square meters more for the same price. But we have to choose the material and we have to choose the people. We use wood and we use local skills. So it's also, again, about cultural process. The people know how to use their material. The people know how to work in a cultural appropriate way. We just have to deal with them and work with them. This is democratization, co-creation, and citizenship. This is a project that we did in Copenhagen. It's called Green Library. The municipality of Copenhagen asked us to get people again inside the library. So what we did is to take the library and put it out in the park in front of. So we organized a kind of huge workshop together with the people living in that neighborhood. And we built this green library where the people can take the books as much as they want, whenever they want. And of course, in Copenhagen, beer is a really good way to socialize, so they can drink a lot of beer. The other project is an integration process, as we can say, that we did in a small city in Sardinia, in Alghero, where there is two communities that they don't like each other. One is the local one, the Italians, that they forgot that they arrived there under the dictatorship of Mussolini as refugees, and they don't like the African, normally young guys coming from the sub-Saharan Africa. So what we did, we tried to put all together. The first thing that we did is to clean the dam, so everybody was happy. Nobody wanted to live nearby the dam. Also the old ladies. And we built a bench together with them for 100 people that can be used by the different beneficiary. So from the old people, after they go to the supermarket, for the children, for the nearby school, but also for the guys coming from Africa to play music or play football, etc. Shared knowledge in architecture, we have two kinds of workshop. That one is called 1 + 1 = 11, that is at the base of our idea. So one idea plus one idea is 11 ideas, not two. And the other one is 5 by 5, where we study 5 different humanitarian cases in 5 different contexts. This is 1 + 1 workshop, that is a construction workshop, where we deal with different kind of community, different culture, and we work together with the different tools, though I will not go there with a computer, because they'll say, like, what is this? And we try to find different tools to communicate with people, especially because my Arabic is extremely bad. And of course, we also build with them. We also try to teach and learn from them. Adaptation to climate change. This is just a workshop. This is about Maldives, an extremely beautiful place, but they can disappear due to the climate change. This interesting conference done by the Obama of the Maldives, and they decide to do the conference in the water. And the second time, he decided to buy land in India under the water. So he brought the parliament under the water. So what the students were thinking is, of course, you can buy land, so if the Maldives disappear, you can go over there, but also you can think to create a Venice of the East. Immigration and refugee camps. I just want to spend a little bit more time on this. And I want to say that it's very strange normally that architect media almost every day talk about immigration, especially about refugees. But if we have to say thanks to somebody to speak about this, for sure is not EHR, for sure is not our government, for sure is not the humanitarian sector, but the thanks is to the people on the move. They succeed to shake the system, and they succeed to do what we didn't able to do with all our money, media, and knowledge. This is the case, of course, of the crossing of the Mediterranean and the crossing through the east of Europe. But if we want to go nearby, this is Venezuela, crossing the border of Brazil or the border of Colombia. So if we have to clap for someone, for this succeed, it's going to them. At the moment, there are 60 million refugees and migrants on the move, 60 million at the moment. They are not escaping because they want to have fun. And this has to be clear, because it's not clear. They escape because they came from extreme poverty, war, social conflict, food, and now also climate change. So these people on the move are moving because they need of food. They don't want to be under violence, clear, and they want education. This tree is going under a phantomatic thing that is called Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's a human right. Refugee camp, they normally are considered a temporary place, have an average life of 17 years. So imagine to be a child born in a refugee camp, you pass 17 years, and you lost your adolescence, you lost a generation. Imagine 60 million people over there. We are architects. I think it's very clear what we can do. I think we can do better, I hope. It's also our role to work on this. But this doesn't mean to just give stuff to people. We have to stop to have this kind of photo. People don't need to go in a queue, waiting for food that they don't like, dress that they don't like because they're all the same. It seems like in the Mussolini era in the school. They need to have dignity. And this is our role. This is our role. Through architecture, of course, because we are architects. I just want to do a small question. I know I do a lot of questions. But what is the difference between these two? 2,000 years pass, nothing changed. Castro Romano, refugee camp schemes. The refugee camp scheme is always the same. We are in Brazil, Venezuela, Congo, Bangladesh, Italy, exactly the same. But the people live in different way. So we are not able to do it, people do it. This is the so-called Champs-Élysées of Zaatari camp. This was illegal. That is, I don't care, I need to live, I need my dignity. And of course, Arabs are extremely good to do business. So this is what you can see inside the refugee camp. People get married, so they need wedding dress. They want to eat, they get in food. And now it's a project of playground that we have in Lebanon for Palestinians that are in this condition for 70 years. So 71 almost, because it was 70 years the anniversary last year. Because they are escaping from this. So this 1917, Palestine. Now Palestine, I like to say that this became an island. There were 5 million people escaped from Palestine, 500,000 are in Lebanon, and they are living from 70 years, 70, in these 12 camps. The conditions are very, very similar to what you have here in Favelas. Extremely dense area, a lot of respiratory problem because of humidity, not a lot of light inside. It's an informal settlement. So what we decide is to give open space to the people, and these 2 playgrounds will be built in this year, 2019. So we decide to build on the top 2 playgrounds that give the possibility for children to see light and to breathe a bit more. And to the women, of course, it's a different culture, so they need a lot of privacy to gather together. This another project is occupy a lot of our time. It's the 100 classroom for refugee children in the Middle East. This is again Zaatari camp, and this is the growth of Zaatari camp from 2012 to May 2013. Imagine a city passing from 30,000 to 200,000 people in 1 year, less than 1 year. We concentrate our force and interest in schools, and we discovered that there are the orange one are the only existing school in the camp, and there is a really strict connection between the location of the school and the percentage of attendance depending on the district. So far you go from the school, less people, less children going to the school because, of course, there is violence, there is also traffic of organs, and a lot of things, and cultural issue. And so what we said is to the camp manager, say, why you don't build small classrooms that has the same cost of the 3 schools, but scattered all over. You have soil, people, student, and teacher. You just need blackboards, if you want, sandbags, agricultural bags, carpets, and greens. And you try to put this classroom between the container or tent, so that the mom, while she's working, can see the child and can also produce income, because if she had to take care about the child, she cannot go to work. So this is the campaign. We're under classroom for refugee children in the Middle East. And we start with prototype, because we didn't want this collapse in the head of children. So we start from the cultural night in Denmark. So our office together, we invite a lot of architectural students, in general, young people, to build this ugly prototype. But it was working very well, because we tested during the different season. And after, when we were invited at the Biennale of Architettura Urbanismo, talking about Impossible. This is what we did with the Chilean student and the exchange student in front of the Biennale. Of course, we had wood because it's an earthquake-prone area, Chile. And after finally we go to reality, and we decide not anymore to work inside the camp, because 80% of the refugees are living outside camp, and 60% of the money, I know I think a lot about money, 60% is going inside the camp. So we decide to work outside. 80,000 people, the refugee camp, 28,000, the village. So, like cultural identity again, we work with what we have. Workshop, construction workshop, we work together with the people. There was a lot of problem for the new technique inside because people didn't accept at the beginning, but if you do a good process, a good intervention, the people will accept it. This has 8 degrees less in summer and 5 degrees more during the winter. Of course, it became a playground also. And this is the last school that is almost finished. This is what we found when we arrived, just children staying in container for a long time. So with the local organization, we decided to build a school for 200 children, but at the same time giving job to the fathers and the mothers. Because the two main reasons why children are not attending school is because they are far from the school, so they cannot pay for transportation. And the second one is because they need to work, so child labor. So this is the project. I will not go very deep on this because I don't have time. But the most important thing that each classroom is a courtyard, so the teacher is also a pedagogic way for the teacher to work inside or outside. So we decide that all the material of this construction has to come for the place. And all the money that we receive has to be spent in the place. So we decide to build with compressed bricks. And we teach to the people how to cure and building with the compressed build. And we brought 2 Spanish vault maker that teach in 3 weeks. But it's like they teach to people to do vault. And in 3 weeks, they succeeded to do the school and the dome. This was the group and the children. New roles for architects. This is the concentration of money, again money, of people earning $200 per day. And now I will pass to the second map, that is the concentration of architects. I don't need to change, it's the same. And even when you go in the small scale, the architects are concentrated in the richest city and in the richest neighborhoods. But when we are talking about disaster, there is a bit difference. So 2/3 of the population, 4.6 billion, have no relation with professional architecture. So when we say that we cry, we don't have a job, and students say, oh, I finished the university, I don't have a job, you have 4.6 billion of clients. You just have to be creative. For this reason, I talk about money, to find the money to build it. We try to do this in 3 ways: through our projects, through education. This is the master that we have in collaboration with the UF, where we try to teach architects to enter in the humanitarian sector, extremely different sector. When you want build a building that is coming up to be built, you have to talk about money and how you can engage people. And the third one is a manifesto that we launched last year at the Architecture Festival in Copenhagen, that of course is called Architecture is a Human Right, and where I please ask you to send a vertical video saying why architecture is a human right for you at this mail. And I will just conclude saying that we think that architecture is a human right.